And here they are, the beginning of these Kipchaks coming out. Free unit. I was completely outnumbered by Gray's Lithuanian paladins, but suddenly it's not like that anymore. Suddenly I have a large force with these Kipchaks, and it completely changes the dynamic here, and I'm able to stop Gray's advance. And I actually couldn't really believe what was happening here. I didn't really understand. How is it possible that I just stopped Gray alone, because I knew that Yellow had been hit hard and had lost his army. How did I survive this? I would say that upgrade, it almost feels like the new Flemish Revolution. Getting all these mercenaries for free. Genius. Love it. Alright, welcome everyone to another very memorable game of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Alright, so this game is happening once again on our familiar China real-world map. This was a really just a game full of surprises, so let's get right into it. We've got Team West over here, played by Purple, who's playing as Incas. We've got Gray, who's playing as Lithuanians, Red as Vikings, and we have Blue as Khmer, and then Team East. And if you look at the Fog of War, this is you can see Team East here. We have Green playing as Franks, Teal playing as Bulgarians. This is me playing in Teal there. Yellow playing Cumans, and Orange playing Persians. So this game, it was really probably memorable for a couple of reasons. One was that it was the first time I had played Bulgarians. I had it on full random, and I got Bulgarians. I had played them before, but never in a game that was quite this long or this close. And I would say this game was also pretty memorable because it's happened before, but the amount of times that and if you look at the score, the amount of times that Team East and Team West switched places was quite incredible. So it really wasn't clear who would win. Without giving it away, let's just say both teams came very close to losing. And also just Yellow playing Cumans here. There's the ability of getting the Kipchak mercenaries. I had never seen it really used in an actual game properly. I think they also changed the upgrade recently, so I'm not quite sure how it was before, but now it's the allies get 5 free Kipchaks for every castle. So we'll see how that plays in. Alright, so here we are, a couple players on team, or at least Blue is already in Feudal Age, and we see the opening salvo of the game. Blue has decided to raid Green, who is actually at this moment still in Feudal, still in Dark Age. He's about to jump in Feudal. And so this was really frustrating. He just got into Feudal Age, and already he's being raided by scouts. Blue doing a great job of putting early pressure on. And the unfortunate thing as well is that in this early in the game, we don't have proper vision. So unless you have a market up, you can't really see what's happening. So we had to actually ask a player, please flag, but it's difficult to see. So unfortunately, Blue does quite a bit of decent amount of damage early on. Green, however, sticks in the game. Assistance is slowly coming, but not particularly quickly. Oh, here it is. Alright. So you see, though, Team East is actually still ahead in the score right now, starting the game ahead of the score, even though Green has been hit hard early. And I think that's about, he doesn't get that many more hits in. Most of the rest of the map is pretty quiet. You'll see Team East does have a little bit of an advantage, or probably a pretty big advantage. They have access to the fish, except for Blue, who also has access to the fish, who's on Team West. So this map does come with this water over here. It is an advantage, but to be fair as well, Team West can gain access if they want to. They have access with the rivers, and again, Blue has access there as well. So you see here, all of Team East has come to the aid of green, we see yellow, teal, and green. And so blue eventually begins to give up on this endeavor, although you can see here Team West is now ahead in the score. Alright, and now Team East is again ahead. So yellow is about to hit Castle Age. I think he just... No, he didn't quite yet. But when he does, we'll begin to see the other team, Team East, returning the favor and beginning to raid Team West. Meanwhile, everyone else is kind of just building up at this point, so not too much else happening. Orange going Knights, which is to be expected for Persians. And we'll see how this proceeds from here. So here come the first Knights, and they are actually beelining to red. Now I didn't know this. Did not communicate this, but I am also sending Knights to red, which is a bit interesting because we did not coordinate that, but we both went for the same player, the pocket player, to raid. So here we have red, who did not expect this, I can only guess, did not wall off, and is now being raided. But he does a good job of converting some units, and blue's raiding is finally ended. And these raids continue for a little bit. And Team East again is ahead in the score. So this is a fairly effective raid. I think it's not quite over yet. Assists are still coming. So here we have Lithuanians, and what is he doing? Well, he's collecting his relics, as a Lithuanian player should. I don't know if the colors are aligned here. I don't think they are. Nope, they are not aligned, unfortunately. So it's difficult for me to see, but he actually does collect all 4 relics, and we will see them coming together one by one. We have finished up our wall, so that's unfortunately what happened to green. He didn't quite have his wall done, but it is now up. Although, just as I say that, blue is now beginning to come back. So blue did not just attack green in feudal age, he is now coming back in castle age. And green prudently escapes with most of his units, although unfortunately he has the wrong build now for this next attack. Although we'll see if that stays that way. Okay, Team West continuing, or Team East continuing to put pressure over here on the pocket player. Again, I don't think red expected to be hit like that. And now we see another front emerging, so we now have a third front. Purple is putting pressure on orange. Now this is quite an extraordinary event here. We see that gray is helping as well. But purple does have pikes. Oh, and look at that, red, actually I missed that, red did charge at orange as well. So you had, so orange effectively deals with that, but you see that all 3 West players are here. Purple, red, and gray actually also is here. And purple is dropping a castle right next to orange's town center. So this is really frustrating. And quite an ambitious castle, you know, have to say. So both orange now is under pressure and green is under pressure up here. Although it looks like blue's attack force has mostly died at this point. So both red and orange are being raided on opposite teams. Purple does manage to drop this castle, which is absolutely frustrating. Now, eventually I start flagging this and I say, folks, we need to help our ally. But there's so much happening on the map, I don't think we'll really get to it. Something I wanted to mention, I should have mentioned earlier, is of course a quick disclaimer. These games are probably average yellow of 1,050 or maybe 1,100, something like this. So this is an unranked game. So now I'm telling orange, you know, run for it. I don't think you can hold out down here. And he sadly charges in. Meanwhile, none of Team West are really escaping yellow's raids right now. And blue does a great job of protecting his villagers. And he does get that town center up. Orange is now dropping his own castle. So again, orange is on Team East. Let's see if we can see that. There it is. But really painful to see here. This castle is not going up, at least not right now. So orange loses a lot of villagers here. Honestly, he loses most, and it is absolutely painful. Blue got that town center up, and both teal and yellow now raiding blue, but blue is managing to hold his own. And this castle did not go up. He sends all his other villagers, but his economy is really getting wrecked in the process. However, yellow is now raiding purple, so this is actually the third player that he's raiding. He raided red, blue, and now purple, and actually is top in the score, as you would expect. But he doesn't raid gray. Let's see if that plays in the near future. Alright, so orange actually did finally manage to get the castle up. Gray now on Team West is in an Imperial Age, the first one to be an Imperial Age. So orange is really under a lot of pressure here. You see, this is where gray's knights are, and orange is hurting. He gets away though with a group of villagers, probably intent on launching some kind of guerrilla campaign in the future from the forest here, and he escapes. But let's be honest, his economy has been wrecked, his empire is gone, his army's gone. Purple has taken over his base, and gray's army is massing. But purple himself, his economy is almost also destroyed. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if I can, it'll be a little bit tough to get this because the colors are not aligned. Recently it's been an issue that you can't really get the units aligned, but I think his population is around 30 right now, so very low. But there you have it. Team West is now ahead in the score. I mentioned this would happen often. Let's see if it happens anymore. Okay, we'll now flip right back, but Team West is now slowly getting stronger. Orange has been knocked out, and gray is now coming in with a large force of cavalry. He's probably got about 50 cavalry units. He already has the Cavalier plus 6, so he does get his 4 relics, and he is knocking on yellow's door. Now remember that yellow is Team East's strongest player, and he manages to break through. I was going to mention that yellow did drop some town centers all over the map. He's got 2 over here in my base, as well as another over here. So he has spread out his economy, just in case, and just in case becomes right now, and gray is through. So you can see purple is virtually destroyed, or very hurt bad, but he can now build in orange's old base. Orange has survived down here. And while this is happening, blue is back on the attack and has got some units under that gate. Frustratingly, knows that it's open, so green's gate is not closing. And green, who had been attacked in the feudal, attacked in the castle, and is now being attacked just about in the Imperial Age. So if you look at this from a kind of macro perspective right now, orange is virtually destroyed. Yellow's base is being ransacked. Green is under pressure and is trying to drop a castle. Things are actually not looking good for Team East right now. And you might be wondering, where the heck is the pocket player? And that is a very good question. Where am I? What the heck am I doing? We'll see. I'm not sure if I can get it to code. There it is. So, a couple of troops coming in here, but you know, what is this? We've got Lithuanian paladins against Bulgarian knights, unupgraded Bulgarian knights. So this is pretty ugly right now, but thankfully yellow still has a force. His raiding party is back home, and we just barely managed to kind of hold this at bay, but it is not looking good. Gray now has open access. It's the one player that yellow did not raid. Happens to now be their strongest player, almost twice the score as the next strongest player on Team West, and is raiding with paladins. And purple continues to advance, though orange is safe for the time being. So this is beginning to look pretty scary, and blue is continuing to pressure. But yellow, as I kind of alluded to just now, does not allow this to discourage him in any way. He is building up new bases And we see he's, despite his base being, virtually overrun, his economy is still up, and actually, amazingly, remains the strongest player on Team East, despite having his base practically destroyed. But as I was mentioning, this is not looking good. Purple is, one would think, ready to attack yellow from the south. Gray is all over the place here. And blue is beginning to show up with more and more army against green's base, who we remember was hit hard early in the game. So Team East is behind in the score. Let's see how it goes from here. And I recognize I need to rally my troops. I've got such a forced ragtag force. And this is actually one of the amazing points in the game here, which I was going to mention, which is the factor of the elite Kipchak. So this is an upgrade that the Cumans can do. Yellow is Cumans. He says that he did the upgrade almost as an afterthought, or almost by accident, and that allows your allies to make 5 Kipchaks per castle. Amazingly, I hadn't built any crib posts at all. I actually thought this was a blunder originally, but I'm realizing it might have been for the best. I have a lot of castles, and for that reason I'm able to drop a bunch of Kipchaks. So that, we'll see if that plays a factor. Alright, so blue is dropping a castle now in green's base, and both yellow and green have to fight against blue's attack, and gray continues to get stronger, remains the strongest player in the game, also dropping castles. But despite losing his base, yellow is now putting pressure on blue's attack on green. They have their own castles here. I also dropped one actually, one there. So all 3 allies present. Blue can't go anywhere, and his castle eventually goes down. And here they are, the beginning of these Kipchaks coming out. Free unit. I was completely outnumbered by Gray's Lithuanian paladins, but suddenly it's not like that anymore. Suddenly I have a large force with these Kipchaks. Kipchaks, they really feel like the new Flemish Revolution, and it completely changes the dynamic here, and I'm able to stop Gray's advance. So Gray had broken through yellow's base, which I'll be honest was very scary. Yellow being our strongest player, if yellow goes down, then that does not bode well for the whole team. But thanks to these Kipchaks, I'm able to, I think it's almost half the army, if not more than half the army. Elite Kipchaks, that makes a huge difference. And I actually couldn't really believe what was happening here. I didn't really understand. How is it possible that I just stopped Gray alone, because I knew that yellow had been hit hard and had lost his army. How did I survive this? Who knows? But I would say that upgrade, it almost feels like the new Flemish Revolution. Getting all these mercenaries for free. Genius. Love it. Meanwhile, blue loses his castle here, and Team East is rallying. And we have managed to stop Team West's advance. And Orange is doing what he can and is trying to rebound in the corner. Meanwhile, we are now dropping harbors, docks on the water, and since we have access to the water, we are going to use that to our advantage to trade. I'm just going to speed it up here a little bit. Alright, so I think this was a pretty good choke here actually. Here comes Gray's Paladin force. But this castle is not up yet, and I'm able to use these Kipchaks to do quite a lot of damage to these paladins, and he loses a huge number of them. So again, Team East is still behind. As far as we know, we're besieged. This front is still holding. I have dropped this castle here. I thought this was the front line where purple was going to break through. I thought this was where we would expect an attack. Gray outsmarted us though, you could say, and just went through the front door. broke through down there and as well up here and came in this direction. But his advance now is virtually stopped, and I send my force of Kipchaks to go raid him from behind. And for some reason, Gray didn't really see it. I guess he was very preoccupied on the front line, dropping castles. That's great, but it's not hitting my economy. My economy is safe. So Team East continues to get stronger, and we are now actually advancing. Green has turned the tables on Blue and is now getting ready to invade Blue's base. So it really seemed like we were in a corner there. It almost seemed like we wouldn't be able to stop this. Gray's advance here seemed unstoppable. There was a moment where Gray was breaking through into Yellow's base, Blue was breaking into Green's base, but somehow an Orange was destroyed. But somehow now Team East is on the offense, and we're about to start advancing here. And now I am raiding Gray's base from the back. And this is not looking good for... Whoops, that's not what I wanted to select. Oh my god, yeah, it looks like he didn't have his build. He hadn't built a market. He didn't have a market up. That is interesting. I'm just trying to switch over to the other team. This is Gray here. Alright. So you see, Gray actually does not have a significant economy. We're down to 81 villagers, despite having a lot of food. And now he needs to redirect a large part of his force. He needs to run home. And so his attack here is delayed. And he's not able to pursue his attack, despite taking down one of the castles. Now, hats off to these paladins. They do take down these Kipchaks pretty handily, but it is a big distraction for him and is slowing his advance. Meanwhile, Team East continues to advance up here, and Yellow and Green are now in Blue's base, and what do we see? Team East is now ahead in the score. So I'm not sure if that's the third time or fourth time, but suddenly the tables have really turned here. And Blue is down to his last force. So this is suddenly not looking that good for Team West. Purple has failed to capitalize on having beaten Orange. Sure, he's taking out the remnants of Orange down here, but not that big of a deal, you could say. I guess he was hit pretty hard. He's building up, but not very fast. And now Blue his main town center is being attacked. And suddenly the situation looks very bad for Team West. So we'll see if they can in any way rebound from that. And Gray is rebuilding his force, but he's only building paladins. Now, amazing unit, but maybe an indication that even though you have a good unit, it's always good to diversify, because here comes the counter. Halberds, which are going straight for his base. Alright, so Blue's last army is destroyed. He is besieged in his main base, and things are looking dreadful. But who shows up? Red. Red is slowly coming and is now suddenly dropping castles all over the place. So Team West still has some cards in their pockets. And we see that Red, despite having been hit hard in the raid in the early Castle Age, has now rebound, and is coming to Blue's help. This is pretty hilarious. Yellow dropped the town center here, and it actually serves an offensive capacity, taking up fire and shooting back. And even Gray shows up and helps in Blue's defense. So Blue is not out of the game. He is surviving, and we see that Red is now coming full on to his help. But Gray's main base is suffering, and this is the unfortunate end, or it may not be. Actually, Gray wins this battle, but it is not the best exchange, given that he was fighting halberds. And I am now slowly going on the attack here and slowly taking down his castle. So Gray was so close to breaking through. He had taken down Yellow's main base, very close to breaking through into my base up here, but lost the moment, thanks in large part to those Kipchaks. and suddenly now he's losing his castles. So here we see red is dropping 2 more castles, and we see 4 of red's castles right in the middle of blue's base. He is definitely coming to help his ally, and blue is also dropping a castle. So pretty amazing recovery here. And green and yellow have successfully, many burning castles, but successfully taken out blue's castle, and are flipping the script on blue. They are now making a push into blue's base. For the first time, blue is defensive in his own base, and he's responding correctly and dropping offensive buildings. Team West continues to be ahead, and purple suddenly has reawoken and is on the offense. So I consider this to be the biggest threat. Actually, this is like a threat to my home base, and I start setting reinforcements here. But I tell my ally, listen, I know it sounds ambitious, but I tell him, build a dock up here. Let's increase the trade line. I know it's not much further, but still, we need every penny that we can get out of this map. Let's increase our trade line. Let's see if we can get more gold. And as far as I know, this map right now, this game right now, is very close. So any extra edge we can get. Alright, so I go into a panic a little bit. Not a panic, but I think, maybe this is it. Maybe this is the moment. I start dropping a wonder, worried that I'm about to get swamped. I start dropping walls here. Amazingly, I close up all the gaps, but I neglect to close this one. Let's see if that comes back to haunt me. I'm actually gonna give it away now. It doesn't really, but could have. Always frustrating when you miss that one last hole. So red and purple pushing down here, red and blue pushing up here. But Team East is not idle. Green is ever expanding into the middle of the map now, getting his production up more and more. And we see that Team East is also now trading on the water. And we have built a dock up here, which means that we're beginning to have an amazing trade line. Alright, so how will this proceed from here? Team East continuing to put pressure, but Team West is not finished for sure. So Team East making a great comeback from having been under pressure so early. I am now destroying Gray's castles, and I'm getting ready to go straight into his base. Yellow is helping out. But the attack on blue has failed. His main town center was almost taken down, but now red has come to blue's help. And you see he's dropped 4 castles here, and he's got a wicked force of berserkers being built up. And he has Viking archers, which with the new upgrade allows for +5 damage. So we'll see how this plays out. And we can see now that Team West has actually gone ahead in the score. So a brief moment there, it switched back again, but Team West is not out of it. There it is again. Despite blue almost being on the verge of destruction, blue and red are now on the offense. And it is Team East that needs to once again go on the defense and drop castles. And we can see how many castles. It's quite a number. But Team East is now trading on the water. We have a great trade line going here, all the way from this tip of the Philippines all the way up to this peninsula. And Gray, who was Team West's strongest player, suddenly is mostly dormant. He is not really, his economy is suffering, he's been raided, and is not as strong as he used to be. But Team West is now slowly making more and more progress, and is now coming straight into Green's base. And if you look at it from Green's perspective, he was raided in the Feudal Age, hit in the Castle Age, and now it is the Imperial Age, and who's back at the door? Blue and red. So this is really a frustrating moment here, but hats off to Team West for getting this great combo together. And and so we'll see how that develops. And my team, Team East, had actually said that this was a good moment right now to maybe take out Gray. But I have to be honest, that seemed to me to be a very tall order because from my perspective, even now, Gray has the most points, I think, in the game. And so I thought, how is that possible? How am I going to be able to take out his base? So I keep expecting a massive counterattack. For sure there's resistance, but I was expecting a very massive counterattack. And it seemed like a really tall order to take out Gray's base, but I'm trying to do that. Running into his base and doing what I can to take him out. However, while that's happening, Team East is now suddenly on the defensive. And despite, things having looked really good, we had even the Blues town center here was burning. Blue had lost his army completely, but suddenly Team West has reawoken. It seemed like they had nothing left, and suddenly they're on the offensive. And while this is happening, Purple seems to have awoken from his slumber after a long time and is now hitting from the south. Now I can see now that this is not a large army, but from what I could see from the fog of war, I didn't know how large this force was, and for all I knew, it could be just as big as this one here. So this does put me in a bit of a tricky position, and I think this is not good. My allies are really hurting up here. I'm being attacked from the south, and I think, maybe this is it. Maybe this is how Team East loses. These archers are doing so much damage with the range, and what are blue and red doing? They are once again dropping castles. So you remember blue actually had a castle here pretty early in the game in the Castle Age, lost it, but now they're building it again. So after losing their attack, they are now once again dropping castles in Green's base. And this is a very frustrating moment, and I realized this as well and start sending my reinforcements, but I wasn't looking, and you see my units are just kind of running in single file. So this is an enemy at the gates moment here. Pretty scary. Trebuchets, archers, and I don't know if I have the counter to this. Yellow, who was already forced to be dislocated, is also under pressure now. His new base is under pressure, and it's not really clear what's going to happen. The one thing that gives me confidence, though, is that Gray seems to be completely out of the game. Although I was pretty suspicious about this because I assumed this seemed, no disrespect to Gray, but this seemed a little bit too easy here in this moment here, and I kept assuming Gray must have a massive base somewhere else. Look, he's still ahead in the score. He must have a very large base somewhere else, and I'm basically attacking in the wrong place. I'm basically wasting units right now, attacking useless buildings. Meanwhile, he's rebuilding somewhere else, and about to hit me from somewhere else. So this is a pretty scary moment, and so that's why I send all my forces over to help out on this front. And I am getting ready to react. I keep requesting my team to build a dock up here, and look what great Yellow does. He drops a villager. This is what I had asked for, so that we can increase our trade line. Now, it may not seem like very far, but you see the game is so close. For all I know, we're losing right now. Whatever can give us the extra edge, we should do that. And so we actually increase our trade line. Meanwhile, Team West is not trading at the moment. And actually, Yellow dropped a castle here, and Red had started trying to trade, but every time a cart came out was shot down by this. So Team East has foiled Team West's attempts to trade. One thing I didn't show is that Green had actually also built a force with Kipchak, so actually not only I benefited from that as the ally of Yellow, but also Green. So it really is an amazing upgrade, and I can definitely recommend it to any player playing Cummins. Now this is how my glorious trebuchets die. I don't think they take this down. Do they succeed? I don't think so. I'm guessing they do not. Do a decent amount of damage, but they do not succeed in taking that down, and I lose the last of my trebuchets. Came close, but did not succeed. And so, if you look at the bigger situation here, even though gray seems to be out of the game, you have to remember that orange is practically gone. He's got 3 light cavalry left, kind of like these 3 remaining ghosts, but orange is essentially out of the game. You know, things are looking really bad for Team. It's pretty scary. Both green and yellow their bases being destroyed. From my perspective right now, it almost feels like, is this it? Is it like down to just my base more or less? So pretty scary moment. However, I send some reinforcements here, and that takes out this army pretty handily. And I decide, you know what though, I'm dropping a wonder. Maybe this is the moment. Maybe I should do it now, before it's too late. So I drop this wonder and begin to rally my forces in the south. Yellow and green are still in action though, and yellow does not stay inactive at all, and he's got units all over the map. Now, despite Purple's best intentions, this does not succeed for him, and he's forced to retreat. So this really is an interesting moment here. Here come blue and red. They have succeeded in destroying green's central base here, and they are trying to push us off what's left of this side of the river. We have very dinky walls here, not really much to speak of, and so this is looking quite scary. But we're beginning to rally our forces here. This threat seems to be gone. I send some forces down south, and I see this, but it's actually quite interesting because Gray, who remains one of the top scorers in the game, has not rebuilt his base. Despite having the resources, despite having enough wood and stone to build about 4 or 5 town centers, this is not what he does. And Team East is now beginning to charge with gold units, and this is the effect that trade has on the late game. Gold units galore. And so here come the gold units, coming in wave after wave. And what we're beginning to see here is, what is this? Could this be the turning of the tide? Blue and red have managed to drop castles here, and they continue to send reinforcements. Red was at around 200 population and blue at 150 or maybe 200. So they're doing they did a really great job of taking down this base, but can they hold their gains here? So I'm just going to pause it very briefly to show that in this moment, purple has not been attacked for a very long time, and gray did manage to get away with a certain amount of villagers. But this is, so if you think about it, this is really the moment that purple and gray need to mount an attack, another attack. They did send one attack, but if they can put pressure here on Team East from the southern end here, this would just really distract Team East, which is now beginning to send all of its forces against red and blue, who did a great job of taking out green's main base here, but are beginning to be on the back foot. So the question is, can Team West's southern allies help the other allies by putting pressure on another front? And can they establish a trade line? So we'll see how that works. The wonder is now almost up, so we'll see how that plays out. And here come the gold units, and this is almost what you would predict. Gold units, Bulgarian cavalry, together with Cuman cavalry against trash units. So tough position for red and blue, however they do remain ahead in the score. And now we're beginning to see the beginning of raids come back, and yellow does send new raid. So he hasn't done this since the Castle Age, but now once again yellow knights are entering red's base, who's actually Team West's strongest player right now, but he is now being once again raided. So not only is there attack here under pressure, but he's also being raided on the home front, and there's no new offensive on the southern front. So how will that play out? We'll see. And the trade line is also up, and the wonder. So you'll notice something really strange here. All these trade cogs are trading down here. You might wonder, why is that happening? Why aren't they trading with the far dock? Well, that's something you need to do. You need to actually manually tell your docks you trade with the furthest allied dock. If you built a new dock, the trade cogs react automatically to go by the best trade route, the longest trade route, but not so if your allies drop a dock. So that's something I actually learned in this game, and so that's why my cogs are not trading with the far dock, unfortunately. However, I do get the gold island here, so that is some consolation. Alright, so yellow is putting red under pressure in his home base, and this is a tough situation. They're trying to hold their ground here, but they've run out of gold, and meanwhile I'm able to stay maxed out. I'm not sure which one is my color here again, but I'm maxed out, and so I'm able to continuously replenish these gold units, and with the predictable result of gold units versus trash units, even despite these castles, they cannot hold that out. So this must have been a really frustrating moment for Team West, because don't forget that blue had attacked green in the castle. He dropped the castle, lost it, and now they managed to do it again, despite being pushed back all the way to the town center. They managed to do it again, once again had a castle here, and suddenly it again looks like it'll be lost. The question is, can they somehow respond to this? Well, we'll see. So purple does try to raid a little bit here, sneaks in. Team East is suffering from not enough woods, so we have run out of all the wood, so that's actually a pretty tough situation to be in. This is one downside of being on the eastern side of the map. You don't have that much forest, and so all of the forest is in exposed positions. Purple does raid a little bit, but is it enough? Doesn't really look at it at this point. And with the main wall being down, Team East is beginning to send troops deep into blue's base. So blue is once again suffering badly here. Not only is red being raided, but so is blue. So suddenly Team West, which looked so close to being having won, is now on the back foot again. So you notice they're not trading. They have not set up a trade line. Red is the one who tried to get that set up, and as I mentioned, there's a castle there, and that did not emerge. So these castles are still here, doing a great job of protecting a lot of the units and taking down cavalry, but blue's economy is being hit pretty hard. So orange, who only had 3 light cavalry left, really sadly lost those 3 light cavalry and is now out of the game. So technically it is a 4 versus 3, but it is actually blue who now says GG, who thinks the game is over, although he actually does not leave right away. It is he actually keeps playing. So he still has a decent amount of resources, but he did lose his army, most of it anyway, and his base is now exposed. And red is trying to get rid of this, but you see he does not have gold units. His gold access here is gone. Trade cog goes down, more or less, and so from here on it's not looking good for Team West. Although suddenly, after a long slumber, Gray finally drops new stables. He had the resources for quite a while, but finally he drops new resources, new stables. And something I'd wanted to mention as well is that even though it looks like purple and blue are not coordinating very much, purple did send blue a lot of food, so that does show that they were coordinating to an extent. And I believe he also sent food to Gray, and so Gray, having lots of gold, lots of wood, now he has a lot of food. he decides to drop stables and to rebuild his paladin force. But question is it too late? You know, look at the situation here with blue. It is not good. His economy is hurting. He's lost. His villager count is down to 52. Team East is arriving with all kinds of siege. And yellow, of course, just like throughout the entire game, has economy all over the place. And even has production buildings here. Green, who lost his main base, is now rebuilding. You just look at that, and you see an economy that is rapidly going back to 300. And so even though Team West is actually ahead in the score, they don't really seem to have an answer right now. They're just continuing to fall back further and further. Purple, who actually is the strongest player, let's see if I can actually select him. The reason I'm picking these random colors is because they are not associated. So Purple, who is now Team West's strongest player, has over 200 population, a lot of resources, is building units, but he seems to be mostly in responsive mode. Every time he gets raided, he runs home and is not taking advantage of this open space here, and does not really put that much pressure on the southern front. So unfortunately, no help is coming at the moment from blue and red up here. And slowly, the advantage that Team West had for a while is slipping away. Gray is now rebuilding his paladin force, so one would hope that this would somehow come to play a factor, maybe to help red, who is again being raided, and maybe blue, who continues to be raided. You know, can gray and purple mount an attack and distract Team East? We'll see. I had a little bit of fun here. Look at this. A lot of palisades just to slow them down. But see, instead of mounting the attack, unfortunately for Team West, purple here mostly just responding to attacks, raids on his base, and does not really attack. He just kind of chases down units, but unfortunately he does not really mount too much of an attack. A couple of raids here, but not really enough to mount a huge dent, not enough to bring down population on Team East. And of course this wonder is still up, and we haven't seen any effort yet to take it down. They're way too busy taking down, dealing with these different raids. And so yellow is now dropping these infantry, and even though blue is almost on the verge of being defeated here, if we just skip to him again, he is now down to 35 villagers, has no food left, and this was actually one of their strongest players, and he is being hit hard, and unless help comes right now, it's not clear that he'll be able to survive this. So there it is, there's the food that I was talking about, big batch, so that's great, keeps him in the game a little bit longer, but red is now cut off, can no longer send help. Yellow has successfully blocked his way, and even though gray has rebuilt his paladin force, and purple has a very decent force of halberds all over the place here, does not mount a successful counter attack at this time. We see that Team East has now moved once again to the top spot, and you could kind of see it on the battlefield for quite some time, but finally now Team East has moved ahead, and so that is how the game ends. Yellow, having blocked off red's route out here, has been taking down red's base. Red did not have any gold, didn't really have an answer for it. No more help was coming. Food was sent, but that was about it. Blue has been virtually destroyed, and gray who's rebounding now with a magnificent force of paladins, the best paladins you can imagine. Well, actually, he's lost his relics, he doesn't have them anymore, but finally attacks now, but it is sadly too little, too late, and his allies have already given up, and it is the end. So here's a last Hail Mary, last hurrah, but unfortunately it will not have any real impact on the game. I'm just going to go through the score here quickly. Who's this? Is this... yes, that would be my unit. So you see I'm actually down to 59 villagers, although... And finally, at the end of the game, I realized my error with these trade cogs, and I send them all to the furthest dock. In any case, we had a really significant trade line here. 200, almost 100, I guess that's not nearly as much as I thought, but a huge, very large trade line, 124, which is a really pretty decent, just right across the map. I, Yellow, despite having lost 2 bases, are both maxed out. Green, very close to being maxed out, did not allow his base being destroyed to be discouraged him at all. He has rebounded, and we would have been set up there for a long game. But Team West, lots of potential, put a lot of pressure on, but unfortunately did not mount the attack on the southern front in time to save Blue and Red, despite having taken out Green's base after having failed to do so in the feudal age. Unfortunately, do not manage it the second time, are pushed back because of they don't have the gold, and that is unfortunately how Team West, how the game ends. But big hats off to Team West. They definitely put us on our toes. You bear in mind that when you don't have vision, you can't really know how strong your opponent is, and it just has a really pretty scary effect when you see yourself see your team being hit on 2 fronts, and when one or both of your allies, or all 3 of your allies, have lost their bases and have been destroyed, it can really look like your team is on the verge of being kicked out. But that's how the game ends. Just all around a really fun game, full of neat things. Lithuanian cavalry with relics, Kipchaks, bases lost, bases regained, the whole works. Let's just check out the score really quickly. So here we have the units. Yellow taking the crown for the most killed units, which is all the more impressive when you remember that his opening base was lost. But of course, Red and Gray also having really strong scores there. Economy, this is pretty hilarious. Yellow had less than 100 gold more than me, so that furthest trade dock made a difference. But when you look at society, somehow I managed to get slightly more relic gold than him. So, pretty curious. And 9 castles, I didn't see that. I had the most castles, which came in really helpful. I did not end up building any cryptos at all, which I actually originally thought was a mistake. But with the Cuman ally and getting those Kipchak mercenaries, I think it was actually for the best. So if I get 5 Kipchaks for every castle, that was around 45 extra free units. Made a huge difference in a critical moment. And then of course the timeline, you can see after all those switches and sides how many times the teams went from being on the losing side to the winning side, and a full range of back and forth that you would expect from a close game. So that was it. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.